This side. By heart, but you have it.
I don't need them. Okay. Yeah, that looks like way more
Late arriving crowd today.
I was expecting.
It's a late arriving crowd today.
If we equal this LCG like a council and parish, it's more. I think what they want to do is make sure that there's like what's the correct word? Like we wouldn't profit off here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not required.
Hello, hello. They going well?
How are you?
All's well, man. Where am I sitting this time?
Is Mr. Kelly going to be here?
Far enough. Heck, you doing all right,
All
brother?
right, all right.
As well?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Which one to fill out? Board commission.
Just did it.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, how are you?
All right, I'll figure it out.
When I get home, I'll see if I have coffee and stuff. And I can
Hey, how are you?
This is what,
Doing all right, Miss
this is
Rena?
what I sent you.
How you doing, Rena? Good.
Hey, girl. I was thinking,
No, you're good.
maybe I want to
Had a nice weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Moved, and we're putting the finishing touches on things.
Oh, where'd you move from and to?
We moved from Karen Crow to a house at the corner of Verot and Amelia.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We're happy to be closer in town.
Wait, Verot and which road?
Camellia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, by the new
Y'all kinda moved-
houses.
Yeah, I moved right there in kind of the heart of
Yes.
a lot of what's going on.
Yes.
I can't believe. By any chance?
Sure do.
I left my pen on my desk.
What you think of Leo?
I'm sorry.
What you think of Leo?
Hopefully I'll be
Understood.
Ever since when I first heard about it, but so far it's been okay.
It's early. Let's see.
What's going on, man?
Sure.
All is well?
All is well.
You got it taken care of?
Yeah.
All right.
Fine. I just want to read this. I forgot all about it. Not reading this.
Why we haven't changed it yet?
He said he sent it. I get so
didn't
many.
see it. Want something?
It's on the paper.
Okay.
Yes. You want me to read it? Okay.
You
No,
have it
fine.
already?
Just signal me when to do it.
Have it already?
Yes, it's here.
right, hello, everyone. We're going to call the meeting into session. Roll call, we have Ms. Arsenault, Mr. Eric, Ms. Bailey, Mr. Moore, Mr. Judge, and our legal counsel, Mr. Stewart. We're going to stand for invocation. And I'll lead in prayer. Father, we thank you for this blessed day today. Thank you for everyone here today. God, grant us wisdom, give us clarity and understanding to do your work here on earth. Bless this meeting, and in Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first order of business is comments from the Library Board of Northeast Library Committee report.
Okay.
Stella?
The committee meeting that was scheduled for May the 15th was canceled. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Yep, and we have a reading from Ms. Bailey. Thank you.
Welcome to the Lafayette Public Library Board of Control meeting. As board member, I would like to announce the following. This is a public meeting. To address the Board of Control on any item on the agenda, please complete and submit the public speaker form prior to the calling of the agenda item in order to have the opportunity to speak. Items for submission to the board should be handed to Ms. Nancy Hebert, seated at the table to our right. When addressing the board, state your name, parish of residence, and title for the official record. No debating or confrontational statements will be allowed. This is not a question and answer session where you can ask questions and demand answers of board members or of employees, though board members may ask clarifying questions to ensure your concerns are understood. All comments must pertain to library business in general and the action item being considered in particular. The 3-minute rule will be in effect. Members of the public are asked to remain quiet during the meeting to allow the board to conduct its business efficiently and to refrain from making comments while other members of the public are addressing the board from the podium. Meeting procedures are governed generally by Robert's Rules of Order, but the presiding officer may deviate from Robert's Rules of Order when necessary, convenient, or desirable for the efficient proceeding of the meeting. Please silence all phones and electronic devices. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to our director's report.
Okay, so a lot's happened this year, and we're getting ready to enter what is our traditionally busiest time, summer. So the library is currently awaiting the Parish Council to approve an agreement for the Northeast Library to be built on the historic Holy Rosary property on Louisiana Avenue. In the meanwhile, we still own property at the intersection of Louisiana Avenue and Shadow Bluff Drive on which we can build a library and a warehouse. With regard to the warehouse, the library has begun looking to see if there is an existing warehouse available for purchase. We believe purchasing an existing warehouse could provide significant savings over building a warehouse on any site. The library has taken possession of a new van for its homebound services. That was entertaining, as while it was in the hands of vehicle maintenance, it was hit by a lawnmower. But that's okay. In an effort to make the library experience consistent at every location, we've begun updating the smaller library collections to the BISEC arrangement from the Dewey Decimal System. The Doosan collection has been completed. Milton and Chenier are next. We will do North Regional hopefully during the renovations and have it completed before that location reopens. It hasn't been closed yet, and we're waiting for the project to go out for bid. We have agreements in principle with UL and SLCC to share data that will allow student, faculty, and staff ID cards to function as library cards. Legal is preparing ordinances for the Parish Council. We're investing in a contemporary poetry collection at the main library in an effort to expand our literary offerings. We are working closely with the creative writing faculty at UL in an effort to create a quality collection and to market this collection. We'll be reaching out to SLCC and other area schools as well. We were fortunate to receive guidance from Pulitzer Prize-winning former U.S. Poet Laureate Ted Kooser, the former chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts under President Bush, Dana Gioia, and former Washington State Poet Laureate Kathleen Flanagan. While we were developing this collection, our annual Rites of Spring has a poetry category also. The library has added 2 new digital resources for patrons, ABC Mouse Home Access and the Oxford English Dictionary. ABC Mouse is a well-reviewed educational resource for children 2 to 8. It provides lessons and games aimed to help children with reading, math, and phonics. It's previously been available from within the library. We're working on the home access right now. The Oxford English Dictionary should need no introduction, but just in case, it's a historical dictionary of the English language and provides not only definitions, but the origins and evolution of English words and their meanings. Weeding is still a priority, especially as we prepare to move out of the north for renovations. The library will be meeting with LPSS this month to demonstrate Homework Louisiana and the additional options available to Lafayette Parish residents. I will be meeting with BBR Creative on Wednesday as we begin working on the marketing plan for the library. We'll begin actual work as soon as the Mayor-President signs the contract. In preparation for the marketing plan and its implementation, we have opened our long-vacant library community relations specialist position. Finally, the deadline for submitting the 2025-2026 budget was Friday. Tonight, the board will be asked to approve its recommendations for the budget. These recommendations will be presented to LCG administration on the 27th of May and again to the Parish Council in August. Should any of these recommendations not be included in the budget the administration sends to the council. Larry has provided you with the proposed budget and his detailed summary. It's in your packets and it's coming later in the meeting. When I became director in 21, the board emphasized balancing the budget, living within our means, and basic fiscal responsibility with people's money. We made a lot of changes to balance our budget and to ensure best practices that would keep the library operating into the future. We also benefited from a surprisingly resilient economy and tax base in Lafayette. To that end, we can now afford to build and operate a Northeast library. This budget will represent a change in focus from trying to survive to building for the future. We have asked to move money from the fund balance into the capital fund for both the Northeast Library and Warehouse and for the possible expansion of the library in Carencro. We have increased funding for marketing, digital resources, and programming. Some of these increases won't be as apparent on paper because the library regularly moves funds from one category to another to reflect shifting priorities and realities in the year. But our intent is to provide more and better services to our citizens in line with the library's mission and to market these services effectively while nurturing existing partnerships and creating new partnerships with community partners such as UL and LPSS. And that's my report.
Thank you. Now we move on to the Assistant Director report.
Oh, I'm back. Okay, so filling staff vacancies within the system continues to be a priority. The candidates for the 2 LTA1 positions at North and the candidate for the LTA1 position at East are currently going through the onboarding process. The ratings interviews for adult services librarian position at South were completed last week, so interviews will be scheduled soon. Our remaining vacancies are an LTA1 at South, an LA1 at Maine, 2 adult service library positions, 1 at Maine and 1 at South, and the community relations specialist I mentioned. In April, we had a total of 60,749 patron visits to the library, and we had 114,627 total checkouts. In addition, 6,052 patrons attended 329 programs, and the bookmobile made 26 stops and had 411 visits. Dawn went to the Friends of the Library board meeting and the Bayouland board meeting in April. We hope to see everyone at our summer reading kickoff event, which is scheduled for June 7th at Maine from 10 to 2.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Larry, facility and financial update.
All right.
Luckily, the emergency sewer line replacement at the main library has been successful. We've no issues thus far. We had a lot of help from Lafayette Utilities Wastewater Division. I just want to give a shout out to those guys. They came out 2 to 3 times a week to help flush out the lines to keep us open. They really helped us out. Just giving a shout out there. And when the concrete across the parking lot, the trench was open, I asked the contractor to go ahead and install some conduit lines for the future. Because in the event we wanted to run water, electric, data, power, whatever it is across the parking lot, we now have a pass-through without having to cut open the parking lot. So I thought that was a good time to do it while it was open. You just never know what you're going to want to run across a parking lot. During that project, which happened to be during Festival International, the contractor was on site. He was timely. He did a great job. We're just so lucky to have had such a successful project with this. Just very lucky. It's great. That project came in at $48,500. Also related to the main library, the lower roof had both drain lines leaking. We found under heavy rain, which we had experienced recently, that the scopers of the bowls would fill up and they would find a way through the actual scoper bowl. The roofer came out and actually did correct the issue, and we have not had any issues thus far. It's not really a roof issue, it's a drain issue. And also related to the main library that I forgot to report, the architectural contract for the elevator modernization is, I think, pending mayor's signature, so that's moving along relatively quickly for government. Moving on to the North Regional Library renovations, we are approaching bidding documents phase. Hopefully we'll have that project out to bid this summer. Unfortunately, the property we were looking at renting as a temporary library was sold, so that's not a viable issue at the moment. We may have to close that location, and we may not have an alternative library for a few months. Still looking at options. If anybody knows any properties in Carencro that might make for a temporary library, send them my way. That's what I have with that one. South Regional Library renovations are going well. The children's area is back open to the public with new carpet, furniture, shelving. New furniture has also been installed around the library. VAV boxes were replaced throughout the library. So most of the interior work's been done, with the exception of mirrors in the public restrooms. And we're also looking at replacing carpet and repainting and refinishing the study rooms. Those have been heavily used and abused, and when we were moving furniture around, we really saw how bad it was. So we're looking at doing those as well. And then we also noticed that some of the building automation controls didn't catch all the equipment, so we're looking at doing some upgrades on that to make sure we can access everything with one software. But that's pretty much it. The condenser units still haven't been manufactured yet, so I think that's really what's holding up that project, is the HVAC equipment, the outside equipment. And that's all I have for facilities.
Mr. President, I had a question. If there's no place to put a temporary library for the North Regional Library, will the employees be placed at different libraries until the upgrade is completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you give me that number for the drainage again? Say 48.5, I thought is what I had.
Yes, sir. $48,500 to.
What was the other number for the, you mentioned another for the, is it with the elevators?
The elevators, we haven't spent anything yet. It's estimated to be about $1 million project.
And that's on the desk of the mayor now?
The contract for architectural services to design the scope of work, and yeah, that probably be close to $200,000.
That's what I needed right there. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Moving on to financials.
Yep.
All right, included in your packet is the financial report for May. It was run on May 14, 2025, and this is for the current fiscal year, which runs November 1, 24 through October 31st, 2025. Our revenues were at $14.2 million, while our expenses were at $6.9 million. And in comparison to last fiscal year at the same time, our revenues were $13 million and expenses $6.2 million. So revenues are climbing, expenses are climbing a little, but not too bad. We're holding pretty steady on our expenses, and our revenues are climbing, so we are doing very well.
Good job with that. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from April 21st, 2025 regular board meeting.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 21st, 2025 regular board meeting.
I second that. Okay. Motion and second. Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the motion carries.
Mr. President, for the record, I abstain. I wasn't here last month, so I didn't want to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Judge abstains. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business here. The executive session on the agenda. I'm going to refer to our attorney. Stewart?
I have a point of information, if I may, first.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of things to hand to members of the board. You're looking back in class. Could just say, take one and pass them down. Huh?
Yeah. Is it the same? Is it the same thing? No, two different. Okay.
Slightly different. Yeah, this three. Okay. Give me a second.
Thank you, sir.
I get it.
Actually, you need to grab it.
You'll excuse me, I think better when I'm standing on my brains. The executive session called, and this is, again, information, the executive session called and the point and specifics were not given to the board properly to consider all the legal ramifications of this action until 48 hours prior to this meeting. This 48-hour notice does not give the board adequate time to consider all the legal ramifications of this proposed executive session and proposed settlement that are. This board has not received unbiased legal advice, as Mr. Breaux has an unwaivable conflict of interest in representing the interest of LCG, which are in conflict with the board. My right to participate and vote in matters that pertain directly to the board and its operation, and as a trustee, I have a right to do so as long as I am a member of this board without an official opinion from the Ethics Board, even though such was advised by LCG's other attorney, Mr. Ottinger, would be violated. The proposal is asking the board to modify its policy that would violate free speech rights and may put individuals on the board at legal jeopardy for allowing people to curse, use foul language, slander, detract, threaten, etc., members of the audience and board without being able to protect the rights of those others to peaceably assemble, which is a right guaranteed in the First Amendment and is therefore probably unconstitutional. Example, someone comes in and accusing a member of the public or of the board of committing a crime, illegal activity, being a pedophile, or worse, threatens a member of the board, or worse, someone in the audience. This would open up the board members, both as board members and individually, to lawsuits from both sides because you can't have the offender removed, and from the one threatened because you could not have the one threatened protected. Besides potential violations of the First Amendment, this violates RS 14103A, subsections 2, 4, and 6, which the board cannot create policy that is contradictory to state criminal statutes. The board doesn't have that authority. Mr. Breaux cannot represent LCG and the board because there is an unwaverable conflict of interest, and we should get an opinion from the Attorney General and cite these specific conflicts prior to stating that he can represent the board on this matter and advise of what the board's rights are, independent of any consideration of LCG, and these are: not biased to give legal advice to the board because of the conflict of interest, advising to take away my voice and to take away my vote without an opinion of the Ethics Board. Board does not have the authority to give away free speech rights as I've outlined. The board may not have the authority to enter into this because it's unconstitutional. Mr. Breaux, are you representing to the library board to give up its rights so that your other client can get out of a lawsuit? Is this what you are doing, Mr. Breaux? Is this your advice to the board? No answer. Mr. Breaux is asking the library to...
You were posing a question to me?
I was posing a question.
I'm not advising the board to give up any rights whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Breaux is asking the board to impose restrictions on itself so that the other client, LCG, can get out of the lawsuit but those restrictions subject to the library board and its members to greater liability of future lawsuits. Would you recommend, Mr. Breaux, that the parish council, the mayor, or city council, your other client, enter into the same settlement agreement, for this board follows the same rules of peaceable assembly as those other entities? The ethics opinion provided by Mr. Ottinger, and thank you for alerting us to that, was gained from an attorney that does not hold office with the Ethics Board, so the opinion holds no official weight. However, even with that said, notice this, quote, this is highlighted in the section from that opinion from at the very bottom of the page. If Mr. Judge wants to attend the executive session and participation in discussion or actions regarding the settlement, the LCG could ask him to obtain an advisory opinion from the Board of Ethics. On the very date that we were notified of this situation as it is and what it pertained to, you see that there is a receipt from the Board of Ethics that I filed a question and advisory opinion from the Ethics Board. I have not gotten a response back from them yet. I don't know when that would be. But I did do that immediately upon notice of this. This executive session at this time throws LCG's own opinion out the window and tramples on actual good government, legal equity, and acts against the legal advice it sought for itself. We are requesting that LCG provide an attorney that does not have a conflict of interest that Mr. Breaux should be aware of, but has not advised the board of this inherent conflict. And it is now this, as it is now, this board has no legal counsel that is independent, unbiased, and not inherently in conflict. This executive session is being proposed so that LCG, as this matter of fact exists, is an unwaverable conflict of interest with the library board. LCG and its attorney, Mr. Breaux, is asking the board to cut its own throat by putting it and its members in constant legal jeopardy every time they walk in this meeting. Asking the board to create policies that violate state criminal statute and is probably unconstitutional. Attempting to ask this board to decipher and consider all the legal ramifications of such an agreement in about 48 hours, which is on its face not equitable morally, legally, ethically, and possibly illegal, especially in light of the conflicts of interest that Mr. Breaux inherently has. And the last thing is that in an agreement, in a settlement agreement, when you reach a settlement agreement with someone, you have no further recourse. You are bound by that. You can't go to a higher court. You can't appeal it. You can't do anything else. You're stuck with it forever. So I appreciate, oh, and then last thing, in the pseudo opinion from the attorney that's no longer with the ethics board, and I'll call it a pseudo because it's not official at all. The person is not on the ethics board. And it's not part of this memo that we got as well. It was not mentioned, Title 42, subsection 1120.4, which is a recusal statute, that should the ethics board actually come back and say, no, it's not advisable that Mr. Judge engage because of, if they found some financial interest, I don't know what that would be. Quite frankly, I'm in the same position with Mr. Kelly as regards to that, as far as this part of it is concerned. In any event, if the board were to come back and do that, I can recuse myself and still be in the meeting, although I cannot participate in debate and/or vote. That is true. But that wasn't mentioned in the memo, and I don't know if that was, I won't cast any more on it than that. But thank you for the opportunity to address the board members and my very deep concerns with regard to foisting this upon us with very little notice and without an actual official opinion from the ethics board.
Thank you, Mr. Judge.
Mr. President, we have a member of the public who's requesting special permission to address the board with this
Mr.
item.
President, we are filing a verbal public records request. We have a right to request.
Point of order, real quick.
point of order.
Let me seek the council first, Mr. Stewart.
I think first of all, there's really nothing on the table right now, but I think there will be opportunity for public comment on this agenda item, and I would ask that be.
Well, we actually have a right to see what Mr. Judge handed out. We have a right to see that immediately. That is why I'm filing a verbal public records request, in order to see that. We deserve to have a copy of that immediately, not after the executive session, not 10 minutes from now, now.
Under the public records law, I think we have 3 days to respond. So,
I'm sorry.
One second. So we have, just on the record, we have 3 days to respond to,
public records
Public
request,
records, okay.
which needs to be in writing.
okay. All right.
Was Mr. Breaux given a copy, Mr. Judge?
No,
Can he see my copy?
I can give him one.
Okay, I would like for him to have a copy of what you handed out.
Mr. Kelly, may I be recognized?
Please, sir.
So in light of all of this, I think, well, first of all, I'd like to say I am a free speech absolutist, and I always fight for free speech. But in light of all this information and the fact that we have a pending decision from the Ethics Board, a motion that we postpone the executive session until we get a response from the Ethics Board.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Public comments.
Ms. Jeannie McWhorter?
Jenny McWhorter, Lafayette Parish. Some of you are new on the board, and some of you have been serving. And I would just like to thank those that have been involved for a while and commend those that are willing to take their time and their energy and be subjected to all the tensions and everything that goes on with public service. And I guess it's obvious to everybody that I am not tall, thin, blonde, and I will tell you I'm not rich. And I have been attending these meetings for quite a number of years now. And I'm speaking for myself, but I also have been in consultation with many others of not only my generation, but younger. And we, as part of the peaceful assembly and people who have loved libraries, who have brought our children to libraries, and who wish for our libraries to be a community library, which was brought up as a topic in very chaotic previous meetings over the years. I would just like to say that my reality, as I said a moment ago, is something that is going to be very different than what the reality of what I just kind of gave an allegory for a minute ago. And when I come to these meetings, I am appreciative of the fact that in the last several meetings, there's been a very professional addressing of needs for the library, things that the general public's tax money want to know about so that their money can be allocated correctly, so that the administration can go peacefully without chaos, without information being disseminated that has a particular point of view that may or may not address the reality of the circumstances. And so I'm just really cautioning that I would like it to be known that I would appreciate that we can continue in the harmony that we've been seeing up until tonight. Probably it's going to get a little more chaotic. But I just think that there has been too much of this feelings-based with people's objections that have gone into histrionics and vitriol. And I personally, as several friends, have been kind of lumped into the name-calling and being subjected to very unflattering to me descriptions of why my opinions are bigoted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just very appreciative of the fact that y'all are trying to maintain some good order here. Thank you very much.
Debbie Hole.
Thank you.
Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Hale. From,
1 second, Ms. Deb, we get the clock together. You've done a while.
yeah, I did clear. Repeat.
Mr. Danny, can we borrow you for a second?
What? I'm
We-
running into
The wi-
technical.
The Wi-Fi went out.
I'm not going to speak long. It'll,
Okay, we'll follow the protocol.
went to zero. To start it again. Clear? Yeah, hit that.
Start a clock for her.
We're gonna start a clock for Ms. Debbie. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Debbie Hale from Lafayette, and I just want to thank the board for your service, and I support the board's authority to maintain order. Everyone who speaks up here signs this, and let me read number 6. This is what we agree to. There will be no debate or confrontation with the board. The speaker will not make any derogatory comments about any person, but will simply state factually what that speaker concerns are. And I've been attending this meeting for several years, and there have been people that have come up here and have attacked the board, and you know, we've seen a lot of disrespect, and I think that we should have order and be able to peaceably assemble and to express ourselves. And we should not be, you know, in fear, and I think the board should not be in fear that they're going to be sued because they're maintaining
these principles. So thank you.
Thank you.
Lynette Mejia.
Lynette Mejia, Lafayette Parish. Obviously, I'm one of the plaintiffs in this case, but I just wanted to make sure that you all had all the information available about what's going on here tonight. A couple of things that you need to know. If you do not go into executive session and discuss this and agree to this settlement, depositions are going to start very soon. So attorney's fees are already over $100,000. If you lose this case, LCG will be on the hook for that. A federal judge just issued a 25-page opinion saying that the actions of this board are illegal. You're going to lose this case. This gives you an opportunity to avoid all those legal fees, to avoid depositions. So I would strongly suggest that you consider before deciding to postpone this any further. Thank you.
End of comments.
Mr. President,
Well, one second, Renee.
take your time. I'm just in the queue.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Okay, Ms. Renee?
I would like to state that I am appalled that a motion and a second was given per Mr. Judge's request when we were only given his information or his side of the story for 3 minutes, when he explains that we were only given the other information 48 hours ago. Surely he cannot have a problem with having 48 hours and then giving us only a few minutes. I am concerned that members of this board have taken what Mr. Judge has to say as rule or fact. I do not agree that immediately caving to his request is in the best interest of this board, as it positions him as the leader of this board, and he is not. I am most appalled that we were given a motion and a second without even hearing from our attorney, Mr. Bro, despite the accusations Mr. Judge put forth when we have 2 attorneys in this room, including Mr. Ottinger. It is under my assumption that Mr. Judge has not attended law school. He does not have legal expertise. If I'm wrong, he is allowed to correct me. I would like to hear from Mr. Bro before moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Bro, yes?
Thank you. First of all, let me say it's very difficult for me to respond to everything that Mr. Judge has said, because for the most part, this is the first time I'm being alerted to these issues. I can say with certainty that I absolutely disagree with his legal analysis regarding this board's potential liability. However, it puts me in a very difficult position to have these kinds of discussions in public when there are issues that should be discussed in executive session, which the law provides that should be discussed in executive session. I would absolutely encourage this board to go into executive session to have the discussions and to hear from your attorneys who are representing you and to discuss this proposal. With respect to Mr. Judge, it is unfortunate that there is a potential ethics issue that was brought to his attention out of courtesy. Unfortunately, there are times when government business does not allow for the 2-3 month period it would take to get an ethics board opinion. And unfortunately, in those circumstances, a decision has to be made by the individual whether or not to participate at his own risk of, of being potentially running afoul of the ethics code. The attorney, since this has already been disclosed that there was an opinion, the attorney who provided this opinion was the former head of the general counsel to the Ethics Commission, a position she held across administrations beginning with Mr. Governor Jindal. So she is not a somebody who is giving opinions without some consideration. Nevertheless, unfortunately, due to the nature of the deadlines in the litigation, et cetera, it is important that we move forward with the settlement discussions. It does not allow time to get an ethics board opinion. But when I spoke with Mr. Judge on Friday, and most of these issues were not raised to me at the time, he relayed to me that it would be 2 months or so before we would be able to get an ethics opinion. Unfortunately, the timelines just don't work. We need to consider this proposal now. So my advice to this board is to go into executive session and have the discussion about the proposed settlement.
Thank you, Stuart. No more comments?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a comment. Just to further expound on why I seconded the motion, because Mr. Judge brought up several points in which I've had contention. I've also had conversation with our attorney, and I think we do need to have some additional time to seek some additional counsel, and we cannot get everything that we need in that executive session to be able to make a decision tonight. So it was not on a whimsical, just grab really quickly to try to kick the can down the road, but it is many conversations that, again, Mr. Stewart can confirm as we're sitting here in front of this public meeting, that we have been having conversation about, and there are some concerns that I don't think that can be answered in that executive session. Hence why I appreciate Mr. Eric's astute observation in making that motion and why I seconded it.
Stuart, so just to be clear, you are advising the board to move into executive session to discuss the details of this settlement, and that by not doing so, the risk that we take is what?
I think Ms. Mejia already summed that up, that there is ongoing litigation, the result of which is not certain. It's if the board decides not to entertain the settlement, and insofar as it applies to the board, then that's potentially the terms may not be as favorable. That's the nature of any settlement. I'm not speaking specifically to this because I don't want to get into discussions of this outside of the executive session.
So is Mr. Bro saying that there's a timeline for this settlement if it's not done by a certain date?
Mrs. Mejia just said that, and she's one of the litigants. There are, obviously, the longer this drags on, the more costs will run up, and whether or not, I can't speak specifically for the plaintiffs in this litigation as to what their position is on a timeline for this settlement, but I know that the longer it drags on, they have the right to not enter into it, and they also, regardless, it will result in the incurrence of much more in the way of legal fees.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second, and we're going to take a vote. Ms. Arsenault?
Yes.
Can you confirm what the motion is and what a yes vote is?
That's what I was going to ask you.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to move into.
No, that's not the motion. The motion is
to postpone, excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you. To postpone, moving into executive session. So we're going to, Ms. Arsenault?
Yes.
Yes.
Against?
Yes.
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 Right. The yes has it. going to move to the budget, fiscal year. The board will actually approve recommendation for the budget.
All right, I'm just gonna kind of summarize all these details I provided you.
Larry, excuse me, this is the sheet?
No, sir. It's gonna look like what's on the screen up there.
Oh. Gotcha. That's the one that's all folded up like that?
No.
That's my copy. Your copy on your seat.
Okay, I didn't see it. Here it is. I'm sorry, thank you.
Everybody good? Yeah, it's a lot of information. What's on the screen there is the page for revenues. Each column represents prior fiscal years, and represents our current budget and where we have our actuals as of March 31st, 2025, and then the last column represents the proposed revenues budgeted for next year. I'm proposing $14.5 million in revenues next year, and that consists of our ad valorem taxes. There's two of them, 3.12 mils and 1.84 mils. And our other revenue sources are interest on investments. That's all of our cash savings that are being invested. That's bringing in over $1 million a year. Then there's our insurance proceeds, our state revenue sharing. That's a state funding. And then our other donations provided by the Friends of the Lafayette Public Library and the Lafayette Library Foundation, Lafayette Public Library Foundation. And our other revenue sources include fines and fees and printing fees and copy fees. We're looking at, if you compare to the current budget for what we're proposing next year, it is a huge jump of $1.6 million, but that is a misleading number because our current budget is under budgeted. The revenues for the taxes were budgeted at prior 2.91 and 1.84 levy rates. That was, the LCG Finance Department will update that number, and it will be a lot closer. Just LCG, it's slow in some areas and fast in others. But the current year budgeted revenues will be updated. But again, I'm proposing $14.5 million. And with LCG, we typically under budget on revenues and over budget on expenses. And what typically happens in a fiscal year is we'll collect more revenues and spend less than what we budgeted in expenses. So it's a safety for government. That's typically how we budget. As for expenses, the proposed budget on the operating side is right at $14 million. So there's a $500,000, $500,000 surplus on operating. In the operating budget, as it relates to personnel, I believe Danny's requesting one new position, a librarian 4, and then is proposing some promotion lines so that he can work with civil service to make some adjustments to some positions. And then also LCG administration, I believe, is proposing a 2% raise for all employees of LCG, so I've included that in that number. Total personnel-related cost of the $14 million is roughly 60% of our budget at $8.4 million. Total non-personnel cost is roughly 40%, $5.5 million. I provided you all with a detailed breakdown of what each account means and how much it is budgeted for, how much we spent out of it, what the change is, percentage change. That's all detailed out in these documents. And then also included on the expenditure side is $10.5 million in new capital funding, $7 million to supplement the Northeast Regional Library construction, in addition to the current $8 million budget, $3 million to supplement the North Regional Library renovation expansion project, $75,000 for West Regional Library building ground general plant. That's for your regular recurring type maintenance and emergency repairs. That's like parking lot striping, painting, that kind of stuff. Main library building ground general plant, $250,000. That's to replenish our fund. We've pretty much expended all of that account related to roof replacement, sewage repair. We've just chipped away at that account over the years, so we're replenishing that one. West Regional Library makerspace equipment upgrades, $10,000. West Regional Library computer equipment replacements, $45,000. Automation, technology, and infrastructure. That's a lot of our network infrastructure, just security and automation updates. We have put in the budget for a replacement maintenance van. The current van is a 2007 model. It's been used and abused. It's about time to replace that one. And then also replacement furniture and equipment for West and East Regional Libraries in the budget. Those facilities are starting to age and we're getting some wear and tear. We'd just like to have those funds in place when we need them. Overall, like I said, you had $14.5 million in revenues, $14 million in operating expenses for a $500,000 surplus, and then you add $10.5 million in new capital, and you're using about $10 million of your fund balance to budget the next fiscal year. And we have close to $35 million in fund balance, an existing capital budget of about $17 million. So you'll safely have $10 million in savings. Yeah. 10 million.
It's good.
Typically, government agencies are recommended to have 20% of operating, and we'll have well beyond that. So.
Okay.
I also included a pro forma, which is looking at actuals, not budgeted. It just gives you an idea of that scenario of we budget, more on expenses, but actually expense less, and we budget less on revenues and actually collect more. It just gives you an idea where things will fall in my projections and how it affects the fund balance over 10 years. Assuming our revenue stream stays the same. It identifies on this pro forma when your tax millages expire, when we might open a new facility, when a reassessment might occur on property values. And it just plays in all these scenarios. It changes every time I run one of these, but it just gives you a snapshot of where I think we're going to fall. That's pretty high-level summary. Like I said, there's all kind of details in here. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Danny, did you have anything to add? Okay.
Mr. President, I just want to make a comment. I just want to thank Larry and Danny and the whole team. I spent a lot of personal time going through all this. It's kind of near and dear to my heart from a business side, and so I think they've done a phenomenal job in operating our library in a very responsible manner. So thank you all very much.
You said 10 million.
10 million savings after all this, yeah. And that all depends on how fast these capital projects get moved, and we all know not so fast.
That's really, really good.
Mr. President, I had a question. So we know there were 2 millages that we voted on in March that failed, drainage and road, correct? Okay, years ago, funds were taken from the library system to cover any deficit that they had with that. Is there any talk or any concern about LCG pulling money from the library system in the future to cover the loss of those millages? I'm just curious.
Want me to answer?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Just making sure. Okay, so the two millages, the renewals that failed at the last election, LCG believes that that was part of that vote no campaign for the 4 amendments, and it just happened to carry over for those two millages, and they plan on bringing those back. Our millage, they haven't told us definitely that our renewal will go up this year at the end of the year in November, but that is what I suspect is going to happen. They can't take our money without putting it before the voters. So in 2019, when $10 million was moved over from the library's fund balance, it went on the ballot and the voters had to vote to move that money. So the parish council, the administration, nobody moved that money. The people of Lafayette moved that money. So our funds are safe unless the voters decided to move them. I have heard no talk of rededicating any of our money. I actually asked specifically if there was talk about rededicating any of our fund balance when our renewal came up or any of our millage, and I was told at this moment no one had spoken of it at the council or administration level.
And
So,
you asked after the taxes failed, the millages failed?
yes.
Okay.
Good.
Makes me feel a little bit better.
Thank you. Thank you. All right,
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget for fiscal 2025-26 as it has been presented.
second that. I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Yes. Pablo Mejia?
Good afternoon, Pablo Mejia, Lafayette Parish.
We're going to start.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I
I want you
apologize.
to get all
Yeah,
your
no
time.
worries.
Every second of it.
Go ahead, sir.
Pablo Mejia, Lafayette Parish. So I'm not an accountant, but since not being a lawyer doesn't disqualify you from making legal comments, I'll go ahead with my accounting comments. You know, when I do budgets at work and multi-million-dollar budgets, similar in size to this, when you have risks of incurring losses, you generally take your, this is what I might lose, this is what the probability of that is, and you have a risk accounted value for that you carry on. So this library may incur some risks, which I don't see reflected here anywhere. But, oh wait, that wouldn't be on this budget. It would still be the taxpayers. It just wouldn't be here. So you're playing with someone else's money, not yours. You're not even related to it. It's just money that's going to come out of my pocket and everyone back here's pocket if you lose a case. When your lawyer suggested that you go into executive session, in which, mind you, that's a discussion that doesn't obligate y'all to vote or approve anything. So 5 people here, one of who obviously has a ethical conflict in recommending not to listen or discuss or consider anything, which you didn't have to vote on. You could just listen to your legal advice. So 5 of you put your head in the sand and said, oh, well, we don't even want to think about it. It's somebody else's problem. So good job. Very fiscally responsible. I really appreciate the good care that you take care of my money, because I am a taxpayer. I am an owner of this library. And this is my money you're talking about stealing. So thank you.
End of comments.
Sure, if you'd like to.
One second. To that last comment about being conservative with the library money, and I don't know. I'm just, you know, if we are really concerned about preserving the taxpayer money, then why is the group continuing to sue the library and cost the library money? So I think that comment, it's hypocritical when you guys are constantly suing and costing us money, and we move on.
Yes. That's what happens when you break the law.
All right?
This is about the budget still?
All comments related to the budget only?
That was the end of comments for that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion in the second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
None abstained. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right. Announcements. Reminder, the library board meeting will be Monday, June 23rd. Reminder of the yearly ethics training and sexual harassment training must be completed before December 31st, 2025. Comments from the public on any other library matter not on this agenda.
Margaret Okers.
Are we allowed to just?
My name is Margaret Okers. Gosh, so many advisors in one place. I don't know if I can contain my glee. I want to address statements made at the March meeting regarding the February 2025 meeting. Two words that were used to describe our speeches were aberrant and visceral. Personally, my speech that night was a passionately visceral reaction to the disservice I've seen play out over and over for more than a decade by other boards too, not just this board, but I did have a very bad reaction, one for which I apologized. By the way, probably not a smart political move to characterize women's speeches. We are not intimidated and we do not feel scolded. However, when we speak, please know that this board will get the respect it deserves always.
Melanie Champagne.
Melanie Champagne, Lafayette Parish. The idea that the majority of this board chose an option that is going to cost more of our money in legal fees is revolting. There is an adorable third grader with freckles behind me who could think of a litany of better ways to spend our taxpayer money. The amount of titles, books, and programming that you have just washed away, more of our money from a group that likes to talk about being conservative with finances, it is abhorrent. As I sat there, I could not believe that this is how you choose to spend our money, and it would have taken nothing but a conversation. It is just bowing down to one member and spending our money in such an irresponsible way from a group of adults that are here to lead a library in a fiscal and an appropriate programming way is beyond what I can even imagine. There's so many ways that we could have better spent this money for our city. I mean, I don't even know, I don't have the words anymore to just describe this dissatisfaction of what has happened here. I don't want to hear anything about fishing poles or electric charging stations or the fact that we have a bookmobile. I don't want to hear any of the complaining when you chose to spend your time voting in a way that's going to cost us more money. Assumptions? No. You went against legal advice. At that point, this right here, Mr. Judge, you have nothing to gain by keeping me here. I would ask this board to please vote to remove him because he's a liability legally and financially. There is nothing to lose by getting rid of him. In fact, there's all things to gain. Do not spend our taxpayer money anymore like this. This is outrageous. None of you are legal advisors. None of you have a legal degree. And you sat here and you did something against legal advice. This is disrespectful. It is disrespectful. As we were sitting here, my dude drew a picture. And he said, all people, all kind of people, deserve books at the library. And I didn't even tell him anything. So, follow the moral compass of an 8-year-old. Do us a favor
It's your time,
and
Ms.
put diversity back in the motto statement and get rid of Mr. Judge.
Melanie Brevis.
Before I say anything else, I just want to make clear, under Louisiana Revised Statute 4433B1, if a public record applied for is immediately available, it shall be immediately presented to the authorized person applying for it. And I just sent you an email, Mr. Bro, along with the library board requesting said record. So I expect to have it immediately. Victim blaming. That's exactly what you just did, Mr. Kelly, with your remark asking why we sued. Why did we sue? We sued because the president at that time acted illegally by removing me from the meeting. That's exactly why we sued, and that's the only way to hold you people accountable. I would also like to make a note about fiscal responsibility, because it's a lie that I hear again and again from this board. Let's be clear. Michael Lunsford, who has directly or indirectly put the majority view on the board, is responsible for this library's fiscal financial crisis. And the majority of you have made no secret of your allegiance to him. So when we hear people on the board talk about how you brought fiscal responsibility to a bad situation after the millage was voted down in 2018, and then the $10 million was taken from the library budget on top of that in 2019, both at Lunsford's behest, it's like starting a fire and then claiming you're the hero for showing up with a leaky garden hose to put that fire out. You don't get to claim credit for saving the library when you create the crisis to begin with. That is not good stewardship. That is sabotage. A second lie that you guys like to tell is that you actually have the best interest of the library and librarians in mind. If so, you would have listened to librarians and not disaffiliated from the ALA. You would have all voted for the largest sized library option at the February meeting, because that is what the Northeast Committee of Informed Citizens had voted for, instead of waiting until the March meeting when the mayor and other leaders were staring you down and you were forced to do the right thing. You can say 1,000,000 times that you want to build a library, because we all know that if people repeat a lie enough times, others will start believing it. But your actions absolutely suggest otherwise.
End of comments.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
And, Mr.
I want to make,
okay,
that name, that was Michael who?
Lunsford.
Lunsford. Thank you. Never met the man in my life, but,
Okay. Mr. Gillane, can you please pull up the mission statement for our library system for everyone to see? Can you put it on the projector for everyone to see? Because a patron keeps coming up here implying that diversity needs to be in our mission statement, like we are being racist or excluding people from coming to our library system. And nothing in that mission statement that we have excludes anyone. For the record, I just want you to know that. Could you please?
Give me a minute.
Would you please read it for the audience, Mr. Gillane?
Okay, I'm looking
At the
for
bottom.
it. At the bottom?
At the bottom, yeah.
The Lafayette Public Library exists to enhance the quality of life of the residents of Lafayette Parish by providing access to high-quality, cost-effective library services that meet the needs and expectations of the community, and to provide opportunities for lifelong learning in accordance with this community's standards.
Okay, thank you. No one is being excluded from entering any library in this library system. Thank you.
Mr. President, I also have one thing. Mr. Larry, if you would you state your position here at the library for us, please?
Library Operations Manager.
Okay,
Speak in
and,
the mic so we can have on.
Library Operations Manager.
and encompassed in that, is that the financial management of the library?
Correct.
Okay, so is there anyone that would be better to speak to on our staff about the fiscal nature of our library?
No.
Okay.
Danny and I would be your points
Okay.
of contact.
So I want to ask both you and Danny, is the library in a crisis fiscally?
No.
Danny?
No.
Okay, I just wanted that for public record. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. All right. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. All right, sir, if you have any questions about that thing, please feel free to call. I'll be glad to.
Send me the direct link to the form.
Yeah, it's intimidating, but it's all good. It's all good, so thank you.